Welcome to Off With Their Headlines with your host, Meredith Constant, and damn, it's a Monday. Amanda Matta, for whom I cannot come up with an adjective because there are so many to describe this queen of teas, of royal tea, which we will get into. I recovered a bit. We just had the most incredible conversation with our guest today, Jo Piazza, who is an author, a journalist, and she looks into all the Tradwife stuff. There's tangents like Sneaky Jesus and King Triton, but it's very fun.
Bees.
It's very
There was a bee.
It's
tangent.
very informative. It's light though, and it's what we need right now. Because let's
It's
be
illuminating.
honest, the world is difficult right now, and we're not going to pretend like it isn't. We hope that we can bring some levity and also some media literacy, because whether you're reading about Meghan's jam or the stock market collapsing, you need media literacy to sort through, the bullshit. Just as a reminder, you can get ad-free episodes every single week over on our Patreon. That's also where we are trying to do something special this week or next and do a taste test together.
Yeah.
Of our products from Meghan's brand launch, which we will get into, and they are arriving this week. You can also watch our episodes over there early when the audio episode drops. If you want to wait a week, that's fine too. You can watch a week later over on our YouTube.
Yes, but before we get to our conversation with Jo, which was just so fun, we're going to have to edit out so much just to make it fit in one episode. We do want to break down some of the latest royal news for you today. So we do have a juicy bearing the lead from Meredith, and we're going to discuss some goings on with Harry and Meghan separately because they are professionally separated. Thank you very much. So Meredith, take it away. What are we seeing happening in the media this week?
Well, Amanda, it is time for the royal appointment. Yes, I am bringing the royal appointment
Truly something
to you this week.
Behold. To see that happen live. And the pause.
It's a whole thing. You see, you got to hold up the neck. You got to roll. There's a whole method to this madness, and
Absolutely.
It is madness. I am bringing us the royal appointment, though, which is keep buggering on, which is from this past week. I don't know why she writes she's Jessica Fletcher in Murder, She Wrote, but this woman is too young to be writing like this. But when you consider the audience for The Telegraph, it's older.
Well, isn't she Count
whiter.
Chocula's niece or something? So, it makes sense.
No, that would be the author of that piece. We've had a new person writing the royal appointment for the past year who doesn't have the same bite, but still falls down the same rabbit holes. No word if she's a bat. Anyway.
They're the Frankenberry to the Count Chocula.
Exactly. So the headline is a week of keeping calm and carrying on. And at first it starts to read like you're going to get information on working royals. What a change. Because the theme of the week is keeping calm and carrying on. Obviously, as we remember, the king fell ill last week with a side effect from his cancer treatment. No matter, he is back at work. It was a blip. Ready. He's ready to go to Rome, and the queen cracked on with her duties as well, which I love the phrase cracked on. Bring it back. Now, what a transition. Are you ready? Motto seems to be keep calm and carry on. Or, as I wrote last week, the king's newly shared Winston Churchill mantra of keep buggering on. Over the pond, where the Duke and Duchess of Sussex remain in the headlines, there is a different level of keeping calm and carrying on. What a transition. What a transition into Harry and Meghan.
The rent was due, okay? She needed to do it.
We needed to be fed. So here's the start of it. As Prince Harry Sentabale collapses into painful public rowing in front of our eyes, Meghan is merrily cracking on with her own packaged food line and jam that can't be called jam. Ma'am, these two things are not related. Let's not pretend like this launch wasn't actually planned.
Right.
It's not like she was like, well, now's the time to bust out the jam. Sentabale's having issues. These two things are not related. And they're going to get on the fact that April 8th is when the RAVEC case starts with Prince Harry and Meghan's podcast launches.
Right.
Because it's supposed to be a distraction, but they're also they're separate. There's trouble in paradise because they do different things.
Okay, there has never been a more quiet tell of how the royal family operates than this. The fact that they think there must be a connection between Meghan's jam that's not jam and Prince Harry's charity row, his court case, because that's how the royal family operates. It's look over here, not over here. It's strategic timing.
Very true.
All roads lead to the monarch when they're on a state visit, so you can't do anything. I think that's a quiet tell, personally.
I think that's a good point. Here's another line. The separation of the couple's working activities has never seemed more jarring. I don't think she meant that pun.
Pun. It's a good pun.
I don't think she meant it, though. I don't think she meant it. What do you mean never more jarring? First of all, Harry's stuff is related to court cases and not necessarily what he's doing for work. Meghan's
Right.
is her brand. These are just two people that happen to be married that have things going on in their lives. Again, it's trying to make something out of nothing and connect two things. It's like saying, I wrote this in a Substack. It's like writing Bradley Cooper makes major relationship announcement after the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Like these things, two things do not go
Right.
together besides the fact that he's an
He
Eagles
did
fan.
two things. Yeah.
The fact that Harry is going through this court case and the Sentibale stuff has nothing to do with Meghan's launch of her brand.
Right.
The two things are not related besides the fact that they are married.
The fact that you want them to be related because you love in the British media to do this kind of juxtaposition and do anything to make them seem like a not cohesive unit, and by extension make all the other royals look more cohesive. Sidebar, this wasn't our burying the lead, but it could have been, because it's Charles and Camilla's 20th anniversary coming up here.
Oh, okay.
So there's also a push to make them seem like this very cohesive unit as they go on the state visit to Rome. And Rebecca English, it's a Daily Mail Plus exclusive, so it's behind a paywall.
We got to talk about paywalling this stuff. It's gotten out of control.
It's insane. But Rebecca English, above her byline, it says, by royal editor who was given unrivaled access to the king's inner circle. So they're really tooting their own horn here. But the headline is, revealed by Charles and Camilla's closest friends and family, what really keeps sparks flying between tactile couple.
Don't want to know. And don't say tampons.
Here's the thing, though. They don't live together most of the time.
Right?
They keep separate residences. That is very well documented. In fact, I think it was Rebecca English a few years ago for the coronation or somebody's birthday writing about how they live separately. It's just funny to me, the maneuvering we have to make across the board to make certain couples look like they're divided and make certain couples look like they are cohesive. Anyway.
Also, not for nothing. This could be pertinent, maybe not, but Rebecca English is the domestic Royal Rota captain.
She's the royal editor with unrivaled access.
And part of that is because, allegedly, according to Omitscoey's book Endgame, she's kind of the lapdog that, Camilla likes to have in her corner. So I don't know. Maybe that's why there's exclusive access.
The only lapdog she didn't get from Battersea Animal Rescue.
Shiz for me, because I would like keep calm and carry on to go away. I stop it. I don't think that's what's happening here. I don't want to see pillows. I don't want to see signs. I don't want to see any of it. Here's the last paragraph, and this is dedicated to you, Amanda. Perhaps the most successful keep calm and carry on of all will turn out to be the Prince and Princess of Wales, who are ignoring each and every bit of it to spend the Easter holidays with their children.
Are they? Do we know that? You can have a holiday with your children and still be glued to tabloid stories about the supposed downfall of your brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Just saying. Just saying.
Yes, Kate and William are doing the very hard work of
going on holiday for a month, right?
So calm, but they're
keeping calm. Yeah,
it's
because
really
they have a holiday every 2 months. That's why
they don't have the media asking them questions. And not for nothing, the media isn't going to press them with questions anyway that might be uncomfortable because there is this unspoken arrangement. So I hope Prince Grilliam is having a good time.
Prince Grilliam, I hope he fires up that charcoal grill.
Me too.
Well, wow. Just tells you a lot about the psyche of the people who get to report on the royals, doesn't it?
It's fun. So I'm so honestly bringing you along the royal appointment was so satisfying to watch. I might do that more often because that was very fun. So anyway, just very quickly, we are going to touch on Prince Harry's RAVEC case.
What's a RAVEC, Meredith?
What's a RAVEC? I wish I had the definition in front of me.
Oh, I have it. I Googled it first. Haha. So RAVEC is apparently the committee which determines which royals get funded security.
Yes. It's like royal something household. It's an acronym. I thought you were talking about what the acronyms, but
no,
yes,
I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it is the group that decides the security for royals, and there's also people that are
interesting that there's a whole group.
There's a whole group. I did a video on this a while ago. I'm gonna have to go back and look on it, but there's some questioning about what happened in February of 2020, which was when RAVEC made a decision to drop Prince Harry's level of security. And there's been a lot of arguments back and forth that, like, well, celebrity security should be enough. But then it's, well, if he doesn't have access to what the Met knows his people don't have access to, that they cannot properly prepare. There's been credible threats against these people. So what this is Harry's ability to appeal, which was granted. So what we're going to see on Tuesday, April 8th and April 9th is we are going to see some of this appeal about the level of security and how RAVEC came to its decision. Now, one of the reasons why there is going to be this public hearing is because of this open justice principle, which is this legal principle that requires judicial proceedings to be conducted in a transparent manner and with the oversight of the people. So to safeguard the rights of those subject to the power of the court, yada, yada, yada. Not all of it, though, because there is confidential security things that obviously will be held back for the protection of Prince Harry. But we are going to get more information into presumably what went into this decision, Prince Harry's reasoning for why he still deserves the level of royal protection. And it's hard not to think about this in terms of Prince Andrew, who up until I think a year ago, maybe, was receiving protection, or at least King Charles was paying for it. So what are we doing here? Who's at the, bigger risk of an attack or a security threat?
Well, and here's my understanding of it is that Prince Harry can still get police protection, but he has to apply for it each time he's in the UK. And the RAVEC committee has the ability to say no, like across the board, right? He gets the Met police protection. That's like my understanding of it.
It is a convoluted process that just makes him less safe. Hold on.
It makes him more vulnerable because every time he goes to the UK, he has to inform the palace and RAVEC and the police of his itinerary, which I personally only see his itineraries get leaked when they involve the palace. If the Sussexes are able to keep their business private, there is less of a security threat to them because they don't have their business being leaked from Kensington Palace, allegedly.
Yeah, and some of what Harry's lawyers have said, previously told the court, is that he was singled out and treated less favorably in the decision. And what they argue is that the failure to carry out a risk analysis and fully consider the impact of a successful attack on him, it meant that the approach to his protection was unlawful and unfair. Because basically what the government argued is that the Duke's protection should be bespoke, which I don't know if we need to. I think maybe bespoke needs. Bespoke needs to die too.
Did you know there's an app here in the US that you can order bodyguards for your night out, like an Uber? You can order bodyguards and you can pick which outfit you want to dress them in and how they'll show up. They could show up in tactician gear or a suit, based on what you order through this app. That's what I think of when I hear bespoke security.
That is so dark. And on a case-by-case basis, which I think the argument against that is he's the youngest son of the king. Right. What's going to change each time? And I think there's also something about information sharing that his team would not have access to, making it potentially an unsafe endeavor.
Or you're going in blind or something like that. Interesting. Well, this is why it is so important, even if you're a royal, I think, to have your own lawyers and people who can go to bat for you outside of the palace institution, because
definitely
they're not always looking out for you as a person. It's like HR. HR exists to protect the company. The firm's lawyers exist to protect the firm.
Yes.
And I say that because there is another story that I'm going to dive deeper into on Substack, which is Prince William hiring, this is the headline anyway, Princess Diana's divorce lawyers. So I want to dig into that story. It's a pretty recent development. We record on Mondays. The story has only been out for a few days now, and we both like to have a weekend. So if you would like to learn more about that story, it will be on my Substack, mattaoffact.substack.com.
And that's perfect because on my Substack, Meredith Constant, I'm going to do more updates on RAVEC as things come in and try to give some quicker, shorter updates over there.
See, we do have different interests, Meredith.
We do. We don't just talk,
Although we did order the exact same things from Meghan's brand launch, which in hindsight, maybe we should have gotten different things to.
We did not have time to think about what was happening. It was so fast because that sold out in under an hour. And already, of course, because we have to find a way for Meghan to be failing. She purposely did that.
She only did 6 things of each item.
Yeah, and first of all, how do you know what the quantity was? Second of all, while an argument maybe could be made for keeping it very limited, it was also only the United States. So it wasn't like a
Right.
global thing. So this could have gone a lot of different directions. Not to mention, it's better to, you don't want to over promise and undersell. This requires a lot of thinking behind the scenes. And even with because the whole thing was she's burning the UK, snubbing the UK. Well, she's not delivering to any other country and they don't feel
Yeah.
snubbed. But also to have an international shipping, I'm sure with like food, and that probably requires something.
Especially right now, #tariffs.
Right? I think that's probably a very complicated endeavor. So starting with this small bespoke collection of items makes a lot of sense. But again, it's somehow this needs to be a failure.
So, yes, let's talk about the launch. So this was last week as we are recording this. I was on every hour because I was like, it's going to drop like on the hour at some point. 7 a.m. here on the East Coast, and then 8 a.m. and then 9 a.m., I think is what it was. Then all of a sudden things started to wake up. So I sent it to Meredith and we did both put the jam and the flower sprinkles in our cart. So we do plan to do some taste tests of that on Patreon this week when all of our items arrive. But I did find it interesting when everything sold out after an hour. I was actually expecting it to go quicker based on I've seen some influencer drops before or some celebrity brands selling things before. Sometimes it's within a matter of minutes. And regardless of like what your supply level is, I think she actually was very prepared for this launch, for things to last an hour with the level of demand that just based on my small little corner of the internet I was seeing. I host group chats every day through our Instagram subscriber community, and everyone who was awake was trying to get their hands on things. And I have no qualms about saying
that's actually prepared.
That's a small sliver, right, of the actual number of people who are probably trying to get their hands on things, both royal watchers and other. So I think an hour is actually a great start for things to be available.
Yeah, it is. It does show that she had some time. And we're talking about that jam that was gone in minutes. And that was something that she had focused more on in the show. And beforehand, obviously, there was a lot of actually the British media talking about all that jam, even though it was negative and stupid. I mean, you kind of want to get your hands on it. And I almost want to do like a weird fake photo shoot with the jam with like a picnic
like a newborn baby.
Yes.
Like the Anne Geddes, like dress it up like a little flower.
It comes out of a pack.
It'll be so good. Anyway, we're excited for our jam to arrive.
We are very excited. Actually, I got an update minutes during our break between the interview that my order is arriving today.
Ooh, I'm so excited for you. You should try it. Let us know how it is. But yes, we both ordered the jam and the flower sprinkles. I wanted to get the honey. It sold out the quickest. And it was labeled limited edition, which it tracks. That was the first thing to sell out. So Meghan did tell us there will be seasonal limited quantity items every time there's a drop.
I just couldn't spend $28 on honey. And listen, I'm not judging anyone who could.
I'm sure it's beautiful.
It's probably amazing. But I have to say, I think they did this really well. I think the prices were really, really good. I do want to say from last week, I talked about how we probably want to see PR packages sent out to other people, not just
celebrity friends
or certain journalists. And we are starting to see some influencers. She sent a PR box to Akila, who's a very big woman of color influencer all over the internet. And she got a box. And I think that was smart from a PR standpoint to branch out who is getting these packages and making sure it's not just kind of the typical people.
There was one choice of a PR package send out that I was questioning, but we won't name names. But yeah, you have packages going out to everyone from Kris Jenner to these influencers. I'm still waiting on mine. Megan, my P.O. box is on my link tree.
Girl, you got my number. Yeah, and I just think in general, but I also thought about this. When did she promise that she was going to do things differently than any brand?
She never did.
How much of that is just us assuming that she would do things different? I'm not saying that she won't, and I'm not saying that there's any problem. Like the formula they're using is smart.
Right.
They're giving it to people who have big followings, big platforms to reach more people and larger audiences. It makes complete sense. Yeah. And I think that the other influencers are maybe not as, just to kind of diversify it a bit in terms of, not just in terms of the kind of woman, but in terms of how big of a platform they have. And even with media branching, I really do hope that you see more branching out with independent media and smaller outlets, especially when a lot of the problem with being in the British royal family was the royal rota and having to give them access. You know what I mean? I really do hope that we see that at some point.
There is almost an uphill battle that she has to climb too, because when you're a Meghan Markle or a Meghan Sussex starting a brand, the exceptionalism of that is what's going to bring people in and be curious for a while. But after a certain period of time, you almost want your drops to become so go under the radar and become so normal, because that means your brand has been established and that means you're just part of the zeitgeist at that point. So it's interesting seeing these PR packages go out. To me, I'm thinking, okay, she is trying to normalize a little bit. She's trying to move away from, I'm the Duchess of Sussex and here's my bespoke jam. Bespoke is a key word today, I think.
That's the word.
But yeah, so I'm excited to see where we go. We've gotten indications this is only the beginning. The same goes for Meghan's podcast, which also launches this week. So I'm very excited to see what is to come.
She's had a great week, and she dropped that stuff right before the tariffs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That woman, listen, usually we talk about the timing, how something unfortunately seems to go wrong. And sometimes it's not always on her end. It's just like the world, like the LA wildfires and her show. But this was a situation where, damn, we are going to want some quiet, soft luxury.
She must have something in her birth chart. Astrologers tell me if this is true, like something in there in terms of divine timing. I actually did a birth chart. I uploaded it to TikTok, which was amazing, because there's a trend right now where you say, like, astrology girlies, please tell me what's wrong with me. And people share their absolutely insane birth charts. And mine is a little bit insane. I have the Aquarius stellium. I think it's like 4 planets are in Aquarius, but
holy moly.
I also have a Sagittarius stellium. And anyway, I posted this and someone was like, oh, this makes sense why you ride so hard for Meghan, because she is a Leo and you guys are kind of like on opposite ends of the, like your compatible signs basically. So I'm just thinking divine timing with Meghan is like a thing for better or for worse.
That with my chart, because I have a crazy chart too.
Yeah,
I'm
put
a
it out there.
Capricorn, but I'm an Aries. Someone in the YouTube comments, I went and I was like, I should check our YouTube comments. Not as bad as I thought. And someone made this whole argument that the reason that like I go hard against Meghan, just follow me down this path, is because I'm a Capricorn like Kate. Excuse me. Kate is a January Capricorn. I'm a December Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
And that we are people that don't like strong women and blah, 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 blah. It was like,
excuse me?
It was the weirdest thing. I wanted to.
My fiance is a January Capricorn.
And I wanted to write back, I'm an Aries rising.
Actually,
there's more that goes into it because, I'm obviously.
You can't just look at your sun sign.
Listen, I got divorced. I'm very into astrology now. I'm following that path.
Okay,
and I got tattoos.
I think if more people would like get into it, there's actually, you do have to go beyond the surface. It is not as simple as saying I'm an Aquarius.
No.
And that's it. Like, anyway, sorry. How did we get on this tangent? Anyway, congrats,
divine
Meghan.
Timing, divine timing. Yeah. Meghan, congrats to you. Well-deserved. Really a beautiful, seamless drop where a lot of things could have gone wrong. User experience with
people
website.
Were ready for them to go wrong.
People were ready. They had the shipping out the next day. Mm-hmm. They are given updates. Applause all around. This was a very successful drop. The pricing was smart.
The infrastructure was there.
You go, girl.
You go, girl. Okay, speaking of you go, girl, we are going to kick it over to our interview portion for the day. I invited, I want to say close personal friend. I know her professionally, author Jo Piazza, onto the pod today because she is one of the nation's leading experts on tradwives. So we've heard a lot of tradwifery talk, in relation to Meghan Sussex and her brand. So we wanted to get the 411 on this narrative. Jo is the national and international best-selling author of books like The Sicilian Inheritance, We Are Not Like Them, You Were Always Mine, Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win, The Knockoff, and How to Be Married. Her work has been published in 10 languages in 12 countries, and 4 of her books have been optioned for film and television. I'm really excited for The Sicilian Inheritance adaptation.
She is my hero.
She's so cool. Jo's podcasts, including the stellar Under the Influence, have garnered more than 25 million downloads and regularly top podcast charts. As editor, columnist, and travel writer, her work has also appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, New York Magazine, Marie Claire, Glamour, and many others. She lives in Philly with her husband, Nick, and 3 feral children. So she does have a book coming out soon, which we discuss. It is called Everyone is Lying to You. It is the first ever tradwife murder mystery in which Jo's master storytelling and razor-sharp insight into the world of social media brings a pulpy, juicy, and cleverly plotted read that will have you guessing all the way through and leave you gasping for more. So we did pick Jo's brain about the world of tradwives, where the royals fit in, and we talked about some sneaky Jesus along the way.
It is a must listen. It is such a good interview. We could have spoken to her for hours. She is so worth a listen. Definitely Definitely don't skip ahead. Check out this interview.
We are joined today by friend of the pod and acclaimed author, Jo Piazza, who has a forthcoming book, Everyone is Lying to You, which is not just touted as an explosive thriller, it is also possibly the very first tradwife murder mystery. Jo is a leading voice in the intersection of internet culture and modern womanhood, and she is one of the first voices reporting on influencer culture as it intersects with tradwifery. So, Jo, we are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being here.
Okay, Jo, I need to know, I'm sure this was in some email that Amanda sent me. When does the book come out? Because I need this book right now.
I know. I need this book out right now. I mean, I just kind of want to push up the release date because it's not out until July 15th. You can order it now wherever you buy your
pre-orders
books.
in.
Get those pre-orders in. They matter. They matter. And then it's like a gift to yourself in July because you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot this.
And then I have a beach read.
And then I have a beach read. And it was cheaper than a spicy margarita. Okay.
You're selling it.
It's a bananas tradwife murder mystery where these women start taking down their terrible husbands. It's what the country wants and needs right now.
It's what we need right now. It seems like a very cathartic, healthy outlet.
Exactly. I mean, because we've all been screaming into our pillows, but what if we could all just scream together?
That's what we need.
Isn't that what really unifies them?
So, Jo, what first drew you into this space? Because I get the sense you're not a pro, tradwife, traditional values influencer kind of person.
Yeah.
You've kind of observed this space for a while, both from the outside and the inside. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey for yourself?
This journey to become America's leading expert on tradwives was completely by accident, as was my coverage of influencers, to be honest. I mean, I've been a journalist for about 25 years now, and I've covered everything from, I literally covered the municipal bond market right when I got out of school.
Stunning.
So sexy.
She has depth. She has.
From there, I was then a celebrity gossip columnist and then a political reporter on the campaign trail for 4 different elections. So I've covered everything. And I started looking at influencers when I had my second baby 5 years ago, because Instagram all of a sudden was serving me these mom influencers, these, gorgeous women in their white linen dresses with their all white houses that never got dirty, even though everyone was somehow running barefoot through a field all the time. And everyone seemed perfect and happy. And my life wasn't perfect and happy. I had 2 small kids. I was covered in pee and puke. No one was sleeping. And during my scroll, and I scrolled a lot because my baby didn't sleep, and my only appendage that I had free was my thumb to scroll Instagram.
It's so relatable.
I was being served all of these influencers. And this was really early days of mom influencers. It's evolved since then. And I was fascinated. I was fascinated by what they were doing, how much of it was performance, because remember, I had covered celebrities. And I started to see very early on that these influencers were our new version of celebrities. So I started the podcast Under the Influence, which became a deep dive into the world of mom influencers. And the first 2 seasons were really dissecting the business, this multi-billion-dollar business that everyone was ignoring because it was created mostly by women, for women. And then, looking behind the scenes, pulling back the curtain. And about 2 years into doing this reporting, tradwives really started to come on the scene. I started to see more and more women elevating this, not just domestic bliss, okay? We're not talking just like Martha Stewart here. We're talking messaging that says women's highest calling is to be in the home. Women shouldn't be in the workforce. You don't need an education or a job. Women shouldn't be making their own money. And kind of folding all of that into the beautiful domestic goddess content of making sourdough bread and baking beautiful pastries and just running around with gorgeous children who are never throwing themselves on the floor and screaming at you because they don't want to wear pants. And, it's such a curated, aspirational looking thing. But the messaging, I think, is very politically dangerous because it's telling women to give up agency of their own lives.
Yeah, Jo, I was thinking about that in terms of when I first started to see these kind of domestic influencers before trad Wifery, came up. And like you, I was hampered down by children, just so many limbs on me, and only
so much
that
touching of
little
me.
thumb, was the only thing I could
Yep.
do, kind of keeping you keep the screen brightness down at night while your baby's kind of sleeping, or you're hoping, and you're scrolling. And I remember that I found a lot of motherhood bloggers and quickly realized that all of them were Mormon, because apparently, there is a big thing about journaling and keeping a blog and stuff in Mormon culture. And a lot of people, like I think of Rachel Parcell, I think of Shannon Burt, a lot of these people were these kind of aspirational influencers that you saw in these dresses. But it didn't feel politically charged, or it didn't feel like they were trying to push a political agenda down your throat. It was like, I love this pink lipstick. And Shannon Burt, it was more like, what is she doing with her children this time? And that was something that was interesting, but it didn't feel as, I guess, nefarious as I can't believe I'm yearning for the simple times of Mormon mommy culture blogs, but it feels like that might have been some of the genesis, or kind of a starting point.
It was a lot simpler. You're not wrong. That nostalgia is very real. And you're also right in saying that this kind of movement of domestic influencer came out of Utah, essentially, and it came from Mormon women. The church has long told women to journal and also to broadcast the joy of their lives. And so they embraced blogging very early on. And then when the medium started changing, when it's shifted to Instagram, they embraced that as well. So the early mom bloggers were a lot of Mormon women. And when Instagram came around, initially the Instagram founders wanted it to be Vogue, but make it social media. The algorithm favored a very particular kind of woman, a very particular kind of attractive. And if you think about the Mormon women, they tend to marry young. They tend to have a lot of children after marrying young. So the aesthetics were pleasing to what Instagram wanted. They also, I say in the early episodes of the podcast, I'm like, they weren't smoking a pack of Marlboro Lights and partying at Bungalow 8 till 4 a.m. They don't have this well-worn face that I have, which comes with love, because I don't regret a single day of it. But, they had this glowy, bouncy skin. They were 23 and had 5 kids. And were also working inside of the home. And so showing off their crafts and their baking and their beautiful houses. Also, because we know that a lot of Mormons, especially in the area of Salt Lake City where these women were from, were very wealthy. These were wealthy women who were being supported by their husbands. And so they could sell this kind of lifestyle, this aspirational lifestyle that looked very beautiful. And then, of course, because the algorithm liked it, we have a gazillion copycats, and it kept evolving and changing. The early Mormon mom influencers were not necessarily proselytizing, but I won't say they weren't either, because one of the purposes of blogging, of journaling, and also of sending Mormons on missions around the world can be soft proselytization. So we're building you wells in your third world impoverished country. Maybe you'll like us. We're like, I'm showing you these aspirational pictures of my life. Maybe you'll think about Jesus. Like, it wasn't hitting you over the head, but it also wasn't, it was there. It was there.
To your point, there was subliminal messaging, because every once in a while you would see like the big framed picture of Jesus in the background. So they just kind of like, Jesus is kind of off screen saying like, hey, I am over here in case you're wondering where this all comes from.
It was sneaky Jesus. Okay. And sneaky. During this Lenten season, I'd like to introduce you all to Sneaky Jesus.
He also has a 6-pack.
He's so hot, actually. Can we talk about how hot Jesus? Sometimes I want to talk about how hot Jesus is, because we have a lot of the signs of the cross are up on the church down the street from our house, and we're an agnostic household. But my kids see them, and my son was like, "Look at Jesus's muscles.
He's ripped.
He's like as ripped as King Triton is in The Little Mermaid."
Okay? Oh my God, King Triton was
so hot,
unnaturally hot, and he had these like
naturally
pepperoni
hot
nipples. I mean, it was crazy.
It's
Sorry,
so crazy.
Amanda.
It's so
Now you're good.
Now when I look, because I used to have a crush on Prince Eric, who is such a dope.
Such a dope.
So
no
dumb.
offense.
Okay, no. And I didn't understand why Triton was so mean to Ariel. And now I look at Ariel's little bikini shell outfit and I'm like, put some clothes on, mer girl. Come
that was
on.
the first
You're
problem.
16.
Also,
You're
you're
16.
16.
Yeah.
You're not
And
making
no.
decisions about marrying
No,
someone.
you don't get to have legs and go
No.
marry a stranger. No.
Draw the line. I was into the guy from Mulan, the captain. He
The
had a great
captain.
jawline.
Really chiseled glass. Okay, chiseled glass. But
Body
but yeah,
oddy.
we're getting outside the Mormon circle.
Sorry.
With Sneaky Jesus. That's how we got there.
Sneaky
Yeah.
Jesus.
Okay, back.
So, but it did start to evolve, and it started to evolve as our country's identity politics involved. And the right is very, very good, and the Christian patriarchy generally, very, very good at influencer and digital messaging. And we saw groups like Turning Point USA embracing influencers much earlier than the left did. And the way they explained it a lot was the liberals and the left, they have Hollywood, they have celebrities. We have to make our own celebrities. And so they really started pushing this beautiful domestic goddess trad wife idea as an alternative to the girl boss culture of, aren't you burnt out? Like, aren't you tired? Aren't you sick of trying to have it all? You could just have this if you don't work. And if you give up all of your agency to your husband, if you let him control the silly money. And the messaging became very politically infused. And now, and it's intensely political, though I don't think a lot of people necessarily realize it, when they're watching this beautiful content of a family on a farm, they're injecting so many values of self-determinism, homeschooling, homesteading, don't use birth control, things like that, which are politics.
Yeah. And we've talked about, the Evie magazine,
Delicious.
their desire to always bring it back to why birth control is bad for you. But you touched on something there, how in general, I think it is possible for social media content to tap into a desire for this like soft life, this feminine revival.
Yeah.
And like the anti-girl boss, you can do that without having politically charged undercurrents. Absolutely. I think people, especially during COVID, probably woke up to the fact that girl bossing isn't necessarily going to save us, if the system fails us. But the answer to that, it can go two different ways, right? It can be show up in your community, or it can be return to these quote unquote traditional values. So that's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot with trad wives. Do you think it is meaning different things to different people who consume this content? Does it always have to be political? Is there a way to consume this content and not give in to that political messaging?
It's really tricky, okay? Because I think the political messaging is now injected into it in such a nefarious way that it gets to you. I'm not on the pill anymore. That ship has sailed for me.
Third will break you. I will say that as a mother of three.
She did. Yeah, totally. And so we're done with that phase of life. I was on the pill for 20 years. I didn't necessarily love it.
Relatable.
That said, I love birth control. I do. Love women having power over their own bodies. But I've spoken to so many young women in their early 20s who are like, oh no, it's terrible. It's terrible for your body. And this is all a conspiracy against us. And I'm like, where did you hear that? And they're like, the internet, and TikTok and Instagram. And I'm like, some of it is, but also you should talk to your doctor about it and not take the advice of your favorite soft girl social media influencer who's going to tell you to use the rhythm method, which doesn't work. So these things are being injected in there. We're also seeing so much anti-vax content in a lot of these trad accounts, which is framed as natural living. Okay. So I do think it's hard to escape it. We can think we're just scrolling beautiful things. Even I talk a lot about the Ballerina Farm account, and I talk about Ballerina Farm as a media brand of which Hannah Nealman is the CEO of. She is a businesswoman making money. And that's the irony of all of this. The majority of these trad wives are the breadwinners in their household. And yet they claim that they're living, quote unquote, traditional gender roles where the man is in charge of their house. So that's the first lie that they're telling you. It's the reason I named my novel Everyone is Lying to You, because these women are making money. They are running businesses and pretending that they are not. And that's the key here. But I look at the Ballerina Farm account and media empire. It is truly a media empire and is only getting bigger. And some of the content is totally innocuous, right? Like, I like bread. I like chickens.
So does Oprah.
So does Oprah.
So does Megan Sussex.
So does Megan Sussex. And yet, there's also the promotion, the talk about, they're anti-birth control, they're very anti-choice for women, they're very anti-government's involvement in your life, which I think is very easy to be when you're the son of the JetBlue founder because you're rich. And that's another thing that I think a lot of these people are lying to us about. They're claiming that you can easily have this kind of lifestyle. Like you're just going to homestead and live off the land and live on one salary, which is a massive lie. You can do that if you have generational wealth. The average American man, the average American white man makes around $63,000 a year. The average American, after taxes, that's about $52,000. This math is fuzzy. I'm no longer a math person. But you get the point. So after taxes, you got like $52,000. The average American household spends $66,000. So the majority of households cannot have this single income, nor can they live the way that these people do who have generational money and who have their own safety net.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's a lot of the things that people don't see. And like you said, it's really easy to watch this stuff and feel like, no, I just want some tips for natural living or how to make bread. And then suddenly you are not vaccinating your children and think the government is controlling you through whatever. And I think what's maybe been missed in culture is we spent so much time worrying about the young white men and how they are being influenced by alt-right influencers and podcasters because conservatives jumped on that. And there's a lot of young white men that have a lot of power,
they do.
Through podcasting. And I think we forgot about young, primarily white women. And I think one of the takeaways from the 2024 election was that the younger generation hasn't necessarily been radicalized by Donald Trump to go after him and to reject him. In some ways, in some demographics, they've actually turned towards him and they are leaning more conservative than you typically see from a younger generation. And I just wonder, what should we pay attention to with young women, and what are we missing when we're trying to tell them that actually, having choices is a good thing, and that, how do we reach them?
Yeah, and I think about this literally every single day. Like, what does the new version of feminism look like? Because I think for a lot of young women, and my generation included, the traditional versions of feminism failed us. Okay, we were told to go, grab the brass ring and climb the corporate ladder. And we were also told that we could get married and have kids and have it all. And two things did not catch up. The corporate world did not catch up. They did not provide the kind of structural support that mothers need. And men weren't trained to catch up. Okay? Men were not trained to be equal caregivers, even when their wife was making the same amount of money as them. I'm working on Substack right now because my husband is currently the primary caregiver in our house. There's like a ray of light shining down on me. I'm like, it's
beautiful.
Angelic.
No, you know what it is? It's Sneaky Jesus.
Yeah, just say that.
Hello,
He's
hot
here
Jesus.
with us.
He's
Is
here
it
with
me
us.
you're looking
I'm so
for?
holy. So the world didn't catch up to allow us to be girl bosses. And also corporate culture sucks. So yeah, people burnt the hell out. We're exhausted. And there is something to be said for, don't you just want to check out and garden? I actually don't. I like gardening like a little, but like all of the things that I see trad wives do, I like it a little. That said, everything I see Meghan Markle do, I want to do immediately on that show. Everything. I'm currently making my own candles. I'm thinking about getting bees. But like, these are things like I would be bored if I did that all day.
The time.
I also realize how fortunate I am that I have a job that I actually love.
Yes.
A lot of people don't, right? And so, like, where do we find purpose? I think we are really trying to figure that out. So I think the new version of feminism needs to be a bigger tent.
Yes.
It can't be condescending to women who choose to stay and work in the home, right? And it really has to emphasize that progressive policies are what empower you to do anything.
I think that's a good point. Yeah. Not just go work in the office.
Not just go work in the office, because it's progressive policies that allow you to get a divorce if you have a crappy husband. It's progressive policies that will give you and your children health care and a safety net if that husband leaves you and you haven't had a job for the past 10 years.
Or just allowing you to have a credit card in your name.
Allowing you to get Social Security and a pension when that husband dies. Like all of these things are what actually give you freedom and allow you to live a life and make whatever choice. But we can't be condescending to women who choose to work in the home. We can't say that working in an office is the only thing that makes you a good feminist. And also, it's a class thing at this point, too. And I think that that's what a lot of people didn't understand. So it became very condescending about elite universities, and ambition was only one kind of thing. And I think that we can be ambitious in lots and lots of different ways.
Yes.
And so, again, we have to widen the tent.
I also
Absolutely.
think there is this maybe need to reteach some history, because a lot of it is this harkening back to the 1950s, which LOL, you mean when we taxed rich people more and we actually had social safety nets and a burgeoning middle class where you could live off of one salary and have a home and 2 cars and all of that stuff. But also, women weren't happier then. They were medicated. They
Highly
were medicated.
medicated.
They were trapped.
Lorazepam, my friends.
They were
Yes.
trapped.
That's a pain.
It was so difficult. And so these, like you said, these policies gave those women a choice. Not every woman in the 90s was miserable, but you know what? No one had a choice.
No one had a choice. And so it is about choice. Yeah, it's about autonomy. And that's what it is. And I do think we haven't embraced that enough. I think that feminism lost its way. And also with the condescension, this goes back to what we were going to talk about Meghan Markle, right? All of a sudden she is being attacked. And I don't care what anyone thinks about her, okay? Like, I strip that out of it. But being attacked and labeled a trad wife for choosing to build a media brand, the sort of which everyone wants right now. It is a smart business decision, is what she's doing. But you've got all of these, women writing essays talking about how she's sold out and how she's just a trad wife, just working in the home. I couldn't do all that.
Right.
I don't cook. Okay. That is hard work. I would much rather be working outside of the home because I can't do any of the other things. I'm incapable of it. I recognize how much labor goes into that, but I don't think the labor has been recognized. And I don't think there's any recognition that she is working. Building a brand, even if you have a ton of money, is really hard. Okay. And she's also trying to do it pretty much separate from this person that she married.
Yeah, that was going to be my segue for you, because we were talking about condescension, and there's almost this reverse condescension with Meghan for whatever she does, saying, well, I'm Meghan Sussex now. We have to attack her for that, even though that's a very traditional choice to take your husband's name. So it's obviously...
and that it is his name.
Right.
That is the thing. It is just his name.
The man's name.
Just the man's... What else are we going to call him?
Yeah. So, it is this very, it's a hard issue to grapple with, anything Meghan related, but I wanted to touch on it a bit because, the first thing that the media came out with once she debuted her Netflix series trailer, once we knew that there were products coming, was Meghan turns trad wife. So is Meghan Sussex a trad wife? And if not, because spoiler alert, the answer is no. Why would the media be applying that label to her, despite the fact that her actual life, what we think we know about her politics and her messaging, they all push against that label?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the media loves to talk about trad wives because the media also loves to pigeonhole women. Okay. And even female journalists love to be condescending. And that's why I like to be very clear what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a trad wife. I am talking about a very particular breed of influencer who is pushing the fact that a woman's highest calling is in the home, that a woman should be submissive to her husband, that what they believe are traditional gender roles, which have not actually been traditional for the majority of human history, because women have always worked inside and outside of the home, supporting the family. It's literally always been the case. There was a blip in America in the 40s and late 40s and 50s, but it was a blip. This is not history. So the women that are promoting those ideas of stripping away a woman's agency and who are really pretending not to work, who are just pretending that they're broadcasting their lives, their beautiful lives to you without making money, without having actual agency over their business. They're pretending they're not running a business. Meghan at no point is pretending that this isn't a business for her, that this is not an economic endeavor for her. I would say she's following in the footsteps of Martha Stewart, a very happily divorced woman, by the way. Someone tried to call Martha Stewart a trad wife once, and I'm like, who's her husband? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, because she's hasn't had one since her 20s. She went through a terrible divorce.
Horrible.
Famously divorced woman, okay, who has never needed a man, who has actually said she has had no interest in being dependent on a man ever again, okay? So I think that the media loves to throw labels around. They love to label women without actually talking about the nuance of anything. So Meghan is very clear that she's building a brand. She's not lying about anything either. She came out and said, I'm not filming this in my actual house. Right. Whereas one of my favorite things that I learned about influencers, and I have a whole plot point about this in the novel, is that a lot of them rent influencer houses to do their kitchen content, to do their kitchen recipe stuff, and also their morning routines. You can tell because you'll never see a toilet. You can rent entire influencer like bedrooms for your waking up routine and nurseries for your kid stuff so that you don't have to constantly clean your actual house.
This is so dark.
Thing. It's
like
amazing.
WeWork for Tradwife content.
It's WeWork for Tradwife content. And in the book, I have a whole shadow house that's attached to their regular house.
That makes so much sense because the kitchens never make sense.
The kitchens never make sense. They don't actually have. And Meghan said, she's like, this isn't my house. I'm using like a set house. Okay. Like we're filming this. This is something we're doing.
I'm not pretending this is my day-to-day routine.
No. And also because it's television. So I would say that she's following in the footsteps of Martha Stewart, of, the Magnolia brand. In a lot of ways, who were never like, oh my God, Joanna Gaines, like you're a Tradwife. You're letting Chip make all the decisions.
She's just like really good at this, and
she's just really good at this. And
you know what? A woman who loves a big vase and shiplap. Okay, leave her be.
Do you guys remember shiplap?
Do I remember it?
Every Sims house I built, obviously I'm a little younger than both of you, but every Sims house I built for like 5 years had shiplap in the kitchen.
And the barn door, the barn sliding door.
Mm-hmm. I think about it all the time. So I think she's following in the footsteps of some great woman entrepreneurs. And again, embracing something everyone wants right now. People want a soft place to land. They want quiet comfort. Okay. And she's giving them that. I love the show. I have it on in the background all the time. Like I said earlier, I'm really considering Urban Bees. Nick Astor doesn't know that. Urban Bees, right? I'm like, I could definitely do honey. I can't do chickens, but I could do honey.
I support that.
Sense.
Right? Yeah.
That was one of the things that critics blasted her about. She's trying to be quote unquote relatable, which she never necessarily said, but she talks about getting in touch with your local beekeeper and how pretentious is that? I was like, no, I'm pretty sure we all have local beekeepers. You just have to seek them out and get back in touch with your community. Groundbreaking.
Yeah, exactly. Especially out where she lives. She's probably got like 9 local beekeepers.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Yeah. And when I did my nascent research into my beekeeping adventure, there are a ton of urban beekeepers literally down the street from me. And if I wanted to do it up in the Catskills, actually, I think like 6 or 7 houses on my road have bees.
Really?
No way. Yeah, they have hives. Like this is a thing that people do.
Good, because we need the bees.
I'm literally going to go look this up afterwards because I'm like, where are my beekeepers?
Where are the beekeepers?
Oh my God, trust me, you're in Colorado. You've got a beekeeper probably next door.
I probably have a beekeeper next door. That's fair.
So with Meghan, this relatability, which I think she never said with her own words.
No.
Some people read that as being disingenuous. Other people accuse her of still like putting on airs and playing princess. What do you think that tension kind of says about Meghan? Is that part of why she confounds so many people? Has she become this like Rorschach test in the culture wars? She just confuses people. I think that's what we're landing at.
She confuses people. And I have to say that I think that whoever Prince Harry married was going to get shit on all over the world. And I know this as someone who used to cover Prince Harry's girlfriends. Okay. Like they've never been treated kindly. It's always been talked about as a scandal. They were never good enough for him. Right. I mean, remember all the party girls? And it's so much worse now that Meghan is an American and an American woman of color. And there are so many royal watchers who wanted the princess to be a very singular thing. And I think they wanted another Kate Middleton.
For sure.
And they did not get that. And so Meghan can do no right. And also, the media loves, like I said, to rip women down. So it's not even necessarily the Meghan-ness of it all. she stepped into an impossible situation. And like, maybe you don't like her. There's a lot of celebrities that I don't like. I can't stand Natalie Portman for no reason whatsoever.
But you don't have a podcast devoted to hating Natalie
or like
Portman.
a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I don't have a YouTube channel devoted to hating Natalie Portman.
That we know of.
She just
I'm kidding.
not
I'm
yet.
kidding.
No, she just I just don't like to watch Natalie Portman in movies. I don't know why. I no longer love Julia Roberts. Like I think that we have very strong opinions about female celebrities, and Meghan marrying into the one remaining royal family that is in everyone's mind, right? She was never going to live up to the fantasy of princess. And so she has just become an enormous punching bag. And frankly, good on her for doing what she's doing, because again, it is the opposite of Tradwife. She's creating a brand for herself that is completely separate from her husband. Okay? That is not what Kate Middleton has done. Kate Middleton is all in on the royal family. She is royal family to the max. Whereas everything Meghan is doing, it is her brand. If she and Prince Harry broke up tomorrow, she could still do this.
Yep. And it's so funny because it's always that Meghan is using her royal connections. And this is a situation where it's kind of hard to say that she's doing that. But then because she's not with Prince Harry, suddenly their lives are diverging.
Professionally separated.
And maybe there's trouble in the water. And the other thing is there was always going to have to be a scapegoat, because I think the British media has learned their lesson about going after the future king. Hi, Charles. And, a popular monarch is important, actually, to, people being invested and interested and wanting to see the continuation of the monarchy. So the protection of the media around Kate and Will means that there needs to be some fresh meat, which ends up being the Spare and his wife, who made the crazy decision that they weren't cool living like that.
Yeah.
But I also think it's interesting the way in which Meghan and Kate are framed, because on the one hand, Meghan now is a trad wife who has rejected her progressive ideals. How? I don't know. Like you said, big tent with feminism. But on the other hand, Kate is in many ways a kind of heroine to tradwives in the UK. There was a book that came out a couple years ago by Dr. Laura Clancy about running the firm and the financials. And the role that Kate really plays is this traditional values. And she is seen as inspiration to tradwives, especially in the UK. Can you speak on that? And where does that come in with the fact that she also kind of works, and they're trying to push the fact that she's a working woman even more so now? But how does that all add up?
Well, I mean, it's so funny whenever we talk about working in the royals generally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because, yeah, it gets so confusing. It's such a fine line. It's like, what is work? What is a hobby? What is showing up and cutting a ribbon? I don't know the answer to that. But yes, I mean, Kate for so long has been this kind of trad wife adjacent, right?
Yes.
Because I also, like, at no point what has she been promoting that a woman's place is strictly in the home. She has been working as a stay-at-home mom, albeit with lots of help. And again, stay-at-home moms are the CEOs of their household. They are working. Yet her role has seemed to be very deferential to her husband's, and very, very deferential to her husband's family. It has, at least on the surface, seemed very quote unquote traditional. And now I do think we're seeing more of a narrative being pushed that she is working within the family firm. Also because her kids are older. And so, it brings up all of these, ideas about when and how a woman can work.
Yes.
Is it okay if a woman works once her kids are already in school? So, I mean, but would it be a terrible thing if she had been doing more work while she had very small children? And I mean, that is something that we see a lot of groups. I mean, even not necessarily terribly conservative groups saying, oh, well, a mom should be raising her children. That is what a mom should be doing.
This is something I hear a lot from people leaving just comments on videos. At the end of the year, for example, we get all the numbers on the hardest working royals, and Kate continually is at the bottom. She sometimes even comes behind octogenarians, and people will say, well, her work is raising the future king. That's her job. And there have been indicators from royal reporters and people in the circle that she does plan to stay at home with the kids primarily until they are not just in school, like full time, but done with school. So we're talking 10 years down the line. So yeah, that is, I think, again, it's a necessary role to play, but the question becomes more fuzzy when you are part of this institution where your lifestyle did come with these expectations originally, and now you're pushing back against them. So it's a very interesting ecosystem for sure.
It really is. And I mean, and the royals, by their very nature, are very traditional, right?
Yes.
And that's not something that we're going to see change with the current king, obviously. And I don't think it's necessarily something that we'll see change with William and Kate.
No, I don't think so at all.
At all. And so, yeah, I think Meghan is going to continue to be a punching bag. And also good on her, I think, for landing in the place she is now after everything she went through to break free.
Yes.
Of what she was going through there, because she never could have continued to be a brand. I mean, when we talk about the condescension too, I love how she got shit on for being an American actress. Really? Again,
That's the thing.
that, like, it's a job. Like, I'm sorry, like, she's working at a job. She was a working woman before this. And I not to bring up the TIG, but like, I'm going to bring up the TIG. She was an early lifestyle blogger.
Yes.
Like, she really was. Whether or not you liked the TIG, it was one of the earliest celebrity lifestyle blogs around the time of early Goop. Okay. So like this has a lineage.
In fact, you could say in some ways that marrying into the royal family derailed her career, because
Totally derailed her career.
Who knows where she could be right now if she had come up at the same time as Goop doing something a bit different.
Yeah, exactly. No, her career was entirely derailed. And in fact, she did give it up to try to be a little bit more traditional, to try to fulfill these roles. And she found it stifling and terrible and rejected it.
I don't think she was a fit with that role. That just wasn't ever going to work for her.
I think most women don't actually want it. The princess fantasy is exactly that.
It's
so a fantasy.
True.
You are in a gilded cage. And I don't think that she's a woman who wanted to be put in that cage.
Well, we spoke about Kate for a little bit, about pushing traditionalism, whether subconsciously or not. And one area I do see that come through with the royals is their fashion. There is this push back towards conservative fashion trends right now on social media. I understand you bought an item of clothing that is very popular in tradwife culture for your book tour. Can you tell us about that?
What'd you get?
I did. I bought the Evie magazine Milkmaid dress.
Wait, who makes it?
It is. Evie magazine had it manufactured.
Oh my God, so it's not. It's like a Reformation knockoff, or
it
whatever.
Is indeed. It is indeed. It has a corset. It is corseted, and it has puffy sleeves, and you cannot wear a bra with it. It is long and flowing and flowered, and
I'm dying.
It is very difficult to get any work done in it. My husband does, my like very progressive feminist husband, though, like every time he sees me in it, he's like, "You look so pretty."
It makes sense.
I'm like,
men are all the same.
Men are all the same. Yeah, he's like, "You look
nice.
So nice."
It's like, thanks. I can't get oxygen to my brain to think.
I can't.
Right now.
I actually can't breathe.
My ribs are broken, but thank you.
Thank you so much.
And so, there is a push among tradwives. It's so fascinating. They're always in these long flowing dresses, but they're wearing them, even though they claim that they're
working on the
homestead. No one is homesteading in these dresses. In fact, I'm going to milk a cow. I'm borrowing a cow from a friend. I'm going to milk a cow while wearing this dress.
Oh my God.
I love how you commit to the bit.
You're getting mileage out of this dress.
You might be my hero.
Yeah. No, I'm fully committed to the bit. And I mean, I can't even really walk around the house in it, much less milk a cow or scrub a toilet. So, but there is, again, this like softness, this like dress up for your husband. That's another big tradwife thing.
Yeah.
You should greet him with a full face of makeup and looking beautiful in your very uncomfortable dresses. And we're seeing that, I mean, also in the proliferation of the Hill House home, the nap dresses. And again, I love a dress.
Here's the thing, though. A nap dress, like, I'm kind of sold on that, because it's saying, like, you need a nap and you might be in a dress.
Theoretically, but a lot of them are very fancy.
I've never played with Hill House before, but I love the idea of any dress that is kind of flowy, and no one knows that my thighs are rubbing together and sweating, and I don't have to wear a bra. So that's where they tricked me.
They also have like ribbons instead and puffy sleeves. Like they're not necessarily easy. I have an old flannel Eddie Bauer nightgown that I call my coma dress, which is the
know
least
what you're
sexy
talking about.
thing, and I love it so much. And I think, again, I also love the idea of pretty dresses and getting dressed up. I just don't like the idea of doing it for the male gaze exclusively.
Yes.
Fair enough. I do have a male friend who has a nightshirt like that. I don't know if it's Eddie Bauer, but it reaches the floor. He had to wear it for surgery
Yeah.
in his groin area, and he still owns it and wears it to this day because he fell in love with it.
It's like
I
I'm a
love that.
ghost haunting your attic.
So
the
can
little
we
nightcap.
wear milkmaid dresses? And if so, like, do we need a sign? Do I need to have like, I don't know, like a Kamala
sandwich
tattoo on my
board, I am
forearm?
a
Like, I guess I'm
feminist.
trying to
Well,
figure
the
out.
thing is, like, I actually have a lot of tattoos. So not a
Yeah.
lot, but I have 2 middle-aged tattoos that I got in the past year.
Yeah.
Because that's the new midlife crisis, is getting middle-aged
Yes, it
tattoos.
is.
And one of them is sexy Medusa from the Sicilian flag because of
Nice.
Sicilian
Hot.
inheritance. And then the
Hot.
other one is a Joshua tree because I love national parks. And so in my dress, I think I look edgy. I think I look like an edgy milkmaid.
Okay, so get
Like it.
tattoos is what you're saying.
Get
and then
tattoos.
To go with your milkmaid
make
dress.
sure you
And
have
I
tattoos.
also wear a pin on it that says "My body, my choice."
Nice.
Okay, so I see how we can subvert the messaging.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think, look, if we want to say let's embrace traditional femininity, I don't like any of those words put
Yeah.
together. But if we want to, like, embrace wearing these frilly dresses, and also not necessarily, there was something to like dressing like a man in the workplace, right? Like, dress however you freaking want, be
Yes.
however you want, wear the makeup, do all the things.
Jo, before we let you go, just to have a handy guide, we want to give you a rapid fire questionnaire. Tradwife or not tradwife? I'm going to name
love
some
this.
people.
I've never played this game before. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to name a few influencers. Some of them
Yeah.
I think are shoo-ins to be like, yeah, they're probably a tradwife, but are they really?
Yeah. Right,
So
right.
first off, tell me, Nara Smith, tradwife or not tradwife?
Not tradwife.
Really?
Oh.
Because of the business angle?
Because of the business. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Although plays a tradwife on TV, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but she is also fully running a business. And I will say some of her politics are quite complicated, but I'm leaning towards not a tradwife.
Okay.
We've talked about her, but in your opinion, Hannah Nealman, tradwife or not
Tradwife. Tradwife, also the CEO of that business, but the politics around Ballerina Farm are so complicated that I do believe we've got a lot of tradwifery there.
That's what she's believing. Okay. A wild card one I threw in, Pookie of Pookie and Jet.
What is a Pookie and Jet?
You don't know Pookie and Jet?
No.
Yeah.
How do you explain a Pookie and Jet to Meredith?
I can't, actually. I think you're going to have to experience Pookie.
Okay,
Pookie
I'll go
herself.
experience it.
Pookie's pretty tratty.
She is.
Yeah.
She loves a Birkin.
She loves
but
a
they're
Birkin.
always gifts from her husband.
They're always gifts from her husband. Yes.
Is Jet
Okay.
the husband?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one doing the fit checks and introducing his wife to the camera. So I think you're
Oh,
spot
I
on
don't
there.
like that. Let me
I don't
look.
like that either.
Oh, this is so tradwife.
It's
okay.
tradwife. It's tradwife, yeah.
Kate Middleton. We might get
Tradwife.
canceled. Tradwife.
Tradwife. I don't know. It's so hard.
It is
It's
hard.
so
We don't know her.
guys.
We don't know her at all.
Well, but I will also say there are British tradwives, but to me, it's such an American thing.
That's fair.
Because of like the political identity and the cultural identity and identity politics, right? So while there are a lot of British tradwives, I think Kate is she's a different animal. She's so much more traditional. And I will say she's a tradwife in comparison to Meghan Markle, right? So much more traditional. But being a royal wife is a whole different beast.
It is. Well, I think her willingness to just kind of disappear into the system.
Well, to go along to get along, right?
Yeah.
And so, but one thing I want to call attention to is that the majority of women in the past 50 years have not been able to do what she's done, which is to play this role. Princess Diana fucking hated it and destroyed her. Fergie, okay? Like, this is not a role that has been working for modern women. Really, I'm trying to think of who else. You guys know better than I do. But Kate is the first modern woman that's been able to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's because you can project anything on her, and that's a skill. It is a skill to
It
be
is
able
a
to do that. But in
skill,
many
for
ways,
sure.
that's kind of how they were raised, and just kind of listening to the person in charge and the adult.
Mhm.
Even I thought Sophie Edwards, Prince
Yes.
Edward, my hero, his wife, and originally she was trying to keep her PR business going,
Right.
and there were things that happened there, and eventually though you get put in the box, or
And she's
you're
not
destroyed.
even first string. She's not even
No.
a first string
Mm-mm.
royal, and she still had to give it up. But with Kate, I've also noticed recently, and I don't know if it's because Meghan is launching her business, I've been getting an uptick in media requests to talk about how Kate does things her own way. how she did her own hair for her wedding, her own makeup for her wedding.
Which is brave.
Is that true?
Apparently, yes. I don't know about the
believe
hair.
it.
That is
apparently
wild.
bucked
No
the
one-
royal tradition of putting your hair up was one. And I was like,
Right. But also,
okay.
no one does their own hair.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I just, like, no.
And another one
And that was
was-
pre-Dyson.
Yeah, really.
That's true.
Another one was she's objecting to the royal children participating in the tradition of blooding, like first blood, where you go hunt and then you get the blood smeared all over you, which apparently William and Harry both had to do. And I'm like, okay, how much of this is just her pushing back against the system because she's from the middle class?
Mhm.
And how much of it is just moving with the times, you know? So,
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
all right, trad
All right.
wife or not
Mhm,
trad wife.
mhm.
Meredith just figured out that this lady is called this Alexa De La Rosa, aka Weird Neck Lady.
Lexi De La Rosa. Well, you know that she's getting divorced.
Is she? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
De La Rosa, she was really performing as a trad wife. I think she was a baker, and then she tried to be a couple different kinds of influencers, realized trad wife worked really well. She got a lot of attention, claimed that she was very trad, like did all these interviews about being in traditional roles. It turned into almost a satire of a trad wife. I interviewed her on the Under the Influence podcast, and but no, she's since gotten separated.
Wow, I did not know.
Interesting.
Can you be a divorced trad wife? Is that a thing?
That was the question that I
next
asked.
question.
I'm like, yeah, no, can you be a divorced trad wife? I really think that Lex De La Rosa was just putting on performing. I mean, much
That's
in the
always
way
been my feeling, but I also think her videos are very funny because
They're
it feels
very
like
funny.
she's poking fun at it, and the way she moves, it's just like
yeah. And she got a lot of press. I mean, she really did. And she wouldn't say that she was performing. I asked her flat out. And she's like, no, we believe in these traditional values.
Which
You know, my
doesn't quite.
She's like,
answer
my
the question.
husband's the one working. But at the same time, her baking business had apparently failed. And she had 2 very small kids at home, and childcare is expensive. And he was trying to start a business. So it's like, it felt like they were doing this for economic reasons, and she was grifting all of us about being a trad wife.
Listen, respect the grift.
I mean,
I respect a grift.
I prefer that than actually pushing the traditional roles. It
Or
reminds
like
me
a
of
Bitcoin copycat.
it reminds me when TikTok went away, and have you guys seen Stay at Home Daughter?
No.
I have, yes.
You would she kind of talks like that, and she goes through everything she does, and it's obnoxious, but it's amazing because you're like, I don't know what's going on here. And then basically she revealed that she's had like a real power, like high power job this whole time. She is, this is not real at all, which you kind of thought it wasn't real, but it also kind of ruined it because you're like, this is so unhinged. And now I'm like, damn, but you're actually like the smart corporate person. But the gimmick really works.
Yeah, I'm here for that. I'm really here for that. I mean, I'm gonna do every gimmick I can to sell Everyone Is Lying to You books to everyone. And if that means wearing my milkmaid dress until this book launches in July, I will do that.
I'm sold.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I will wear. You know what? I have an idea. Everyone who gets you should ask people to take pictures with their book in their milkmaid dress.
Yeah. And then tagging it. Well, our book events, we're still figuring out what they're going to look like, but we will be doing trad wife beauty contests. We will be encouraging everyone to wear their best trad wife dresses. There will be pie baking. Everything's going to be potluck. So like you get to bring pie
Meredith.
and sourdough.
I've never wanted to be more a part of something in my life. Can I be your assistant? Can I be your gremlin?
Just join,
what can I do?
Yeah.
I can cook okay. Just let me
Great.
let me in.
We're gonna have fun with this, okay? Because we all deserve a little bit of fun. And I wrote this book. I mean, I wrote it in 3 months. And it's very different from the Sicilian Inheritance, which was a very, drawn out family history. It's great, but like I wrote this book for people to enjoy. I'm like, just like fucking have a blast with this book.
We deserve it.
Well, I believe we'll be hosting you in Harrisburg, where I
will
live.
be in Harrisburg,
Yes.
and actually the kids will be there, because we're then road tripping down the feral children. Then we're road tripping down through Virginia.
Well, Jo, thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing.
Can you let people know where they can find you and also your Substack name? Because I need it, because I need to go subscribe right now.
Oh, yeah, subscribe right now. The Substack is called Over the Influence, and the podcast is Under the Influence. And I'm on Instagram at Jo Piazza Author, and all my book shit is right there. And I believe the book is now available for pre-order with you guys, right, Amanda? We've got a link.
Yes, Midtown Scholar in Harrisburg.
Midtown Scholar has a link. Most indie bookstores have a link at this point. So, yeah.
It's going to be so fun, that book tour. It's going to be the highlight of my summer, and I'm going to Ireland this summer.
You're going to Ireland. Exactly.
Jo's better. Jo's better. You heard it here first. But go to Ireland too.
Go to also enjoy Ireland.
But take Jo's book with you. Okay.
But take the book with, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jo.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
All right, that was our interview with Jo Piazza. Her book, Everyone is Lying to You, comes out in mid-July, but you can start pre-ordering now and do it through your local indie bookshop. You know what I mean? So one thing I forgot to do last week, and I am terribly sorry, I will repent for my sins.
It is Lent.
It is. Our Patreon press secretaries did not get the respect that they deserved last week. So I would like to offer my sincerest apology to you, Molly, Nikki, and Lulu. You are the core. You are the jam to our bread, or spread, the jam that isn't jam to our bread.
You are the flour sprinkles on
You are the
this
flour
content
sprinkles
landscape.
to our delightful
Avocado toast. I
of
don't know.
discussion. You are the avocados to our cartel. Never mind. Anyway, leave it
All
in, Amanda.
right.
Amanda, leave it in. So anyway, that is our episode. As we said at the top, you can find us on social media, Instagram, YouTube, off with our headlines. We drop our episodes 1 week later on YouTube. If you want early, ad-free audio, video, all the things, that's
Or a
over on
shout out.
Patreon. Or a shout out. You can become a press secretary. It's fun. So go over to our Patreon. We also have a ton of fun, free things. Just remember, when you sign up for Patreon, if you have an Apple phone and the iOS, do not download through the app. Do not sign up that way. Sign up on the website. Do it that way. And then you can enjoy it through the app. We are just trying to get around late stage capitalism. Okay?
30% is a huge tariff.
30% in this economy. I'm just going to be saying that a lot, by the way.
In this economy?
Just pretend I'm a penguin on one of the islands that doesn't have people. That's like,
what are they going to do? They don't
tariffs?
have. All right. Thank you so much for listening. We will catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.